I was just hoping to ask you a few questions about Professor Mercier's comments, and I guess what you thought of them. I've seen that you posted a few YouTube videos in response to them. I don't know if you could maybe provide a comment on why you think, or what you think was wrong with her comments.
Well, what I think was wrong with her comments is pretty succinct. I don't believe that people in jail, well, first of all, I don't believe people in a situation of incarceration can give legitimate consent to the people who are jailing them. The jailers have absolute authority over every second of a captive's life. So I don't, her statements, and then in addition to that, she's talking about, in many cases, underage boys being able to give some legitimate consent, as in uncoerced consent, to their adult female captors, like the adult female staff in a juvenile detention facility, essentially. That's how I would characterize what she said. That she was saying that in that instance they could give legitimate consent, uncoerced consent. And then she proceeded to describe what I would consider to be grooming behaviors by a child molester as supporting her statement that this is uncoerced consent. And I mean, I can send you the entire quote of what she said and also screenshots of what she said in case that she's pulled it down now. And I've also, in my YouTube video, I've challenged her to clarify what she's saying, what she said. Is this actually what she meant by these statements?
Okay, so I guess what I'm understanding is, or maybe you can clarify, you believe that through her comments, I guess she's sort of excusing the rape of males by females? Is that...
Just speak up a bit more, because it's really difficult to hear you.
Oh, I'm very sorry. So from what I understand, or I guess in your opinion, do her comments, I guess, are they excusing the rape of males by females?
Well, I believe that her comments, first of all, she has minimized, her specific comment in her letter to the Queen's Journal was, yes, men are being raped by other men. So yeah, I would say that she is minimizing the issue of female on male sexual predation. In particular, the one thing that stood out for me was she was minimizing the issue of boys being preyed upon by adult women. I mean, even if a teacher is giving a kid a special gift or giving him special attention, that doesn't make it okay to sexually exploit a boy. It just doesn't. That statement is appalling. And or the statement that it's not coerced. Well, it's coerced by the very fact that she is older than he is, and if she is his jailer. I mean, we're not even talking about teachers. We're talking about adult woman who is the jailer of an underage boy, or even a jailer of a youth that's of age. This is a situation of incredible power differential. And in that situation, there can be no legitimate consent. It's like saying, for example, a comfort girl during the time that the Japanese were invading China could give legitimate consent to a Japanese soldier who was raping her because she seduced him for an extra ration or extra favors. You know, it's just it boggles the mind that someone would make this argument. Did I answer your question? I got a little bit off track, maybe.
No, you did. Yes, you did. So you've received, I guess, threats of legal action from Professor Mercier?
No, I haven't actually. Well, I'd have to probably check my email recently. I've been dealing with some other stuff in my own life, but I didn't actually receive legal action, but I believe I received an implicit threat of it because she said, we're giving you 24 hours to remove these materials. And this was just from her email address. It wasn't actually from a lawyer. So I assume that what her implication is that if I don't comply, that she is going to proceed with some sort of libel lawsuit. But that is my interpretation. Maybe she's just going to, give me the finger from Ottawa or something. And
Okay. So you haven't heard anything more other than that?
Nope, I haven't.
No. Okay. Do you believe that your comments that you made through your videos or through your posts on Voice for Men, do you believe that they were libelous or slanderous in any way?
Well, no, because the truth is a defense for libel. And I actually said on my blog, which is genderaddict.com, that if this is an imposter, I would retract everything that I'm saying. If she tells me that this wasn't her, but at this point I don't see how it couldn't be her because she actually sent a letter to the editor. But if she actually said that this wasn't her, then, but she didn't. What she did was she told me to remove my posts. But the problem is that, and I will send you screenshots of what she said. The problem is that the original rape apology is in her original comment. I'm merely saying that you can't say that. I mean, this is totally inappropriate to believe that these women, these adult female staff in a juvenile detention center, that they are not coercing these boys. And furthermore, if you're an adult in that position of authority and a kid comes on to you, it's your responsibility to say no. And if you don't, then you're in the wrong in that situation where the adult has authority over the kid.
So you wrote in response to the letter on the Queen's Journal, is it because you believe, I guess the letter was kind of saying that there shouldn't be a space for men to talk about these sorts of issues. Do you believe that it's important for men to have that space to talk about issues such as, rape or
being abused by adult female staff in juvenile detention centers? Well, I would say that I think Mercier's comments sort of prove the point. Unless there's an incredibly strong reaction by feminism to her comments, it's pretty obvious that feminists should not be controlling the dialogue on men's issues. If they can't say to this person who has said that boys, and she is specifically meaning boys, I'm sure that she's not going to argue that a girl can give legitimate consent to an adult male guard in a juvenile detention facility. Even if he gives her a gift or she makes the first move, I'm pretty sure that Mercier wouldn't argue that is legitimate consent. That is not coerced consent by the authority that the guard has or the situation that the girl is in. So I would say that unless feminism takes a very strong stance against what Mercier says, and other feminists who indicate the same kind of attitude towards the sexual abuse of boys and men, that by that fact alone, men require their own space with no feminist oversight to speak about these issues, such as being sexually abused by women, adult women, as boys, and also, even more shockingly, about being sexually abused as adult men by adult women. They need a space where that is going to be respected as actual abuse and not subject to qualifiers like, well, because of the patriarchy, your patriarchal privilege, what the abuse happened to you was not as meaningful or as painful or the same as abuse that happens to women. Or qualifiers like, well, it's just not the same. This is something that men need. They need a space to understand their vulnerability because society, as well as feminism, doesn't give men the tools and the space they need to discuss and understand their own vulnerabilities. And that's what we're advocating for as a movement. Space for men, for that, outside of feminist oversight. And that's it. And I think Mercier illustrates with her statements that that's exactly what's needed.
Do you think that eventually maybe, these two movements will be able to, coexist or work together, or do you think that that's not going to be possible?
Well, it depends on what feminism decides to do because feminism really has the power at the moment. the reality is that they do not want to work with us. I would say that I'm not just a men's rights activist. I'm also a women's rights activist. And I believe that the narrative that feminism puts out into the public with its campaigns. Well, let me use an analogy. Let me give you an anecdote or a scenario to explain my main criticism of feminism from a woman's rights perspective. Let's say you had an elderly aunt who was living on her own in a neighborhood, and your elderly aunt got targeted by a shady home alarm dealer salesman who proceeded to tell her constantly about the crime in her neighborhood and used inflated statistics to terrify her about the amount of crime in her neighborhood. You would recognize the abuse in that scenario. That one person using inflated statistics to terrify another person is abusive. And I would say that the statistics that the government and feminism are putting out on women's vulnerability are abusive because they are inflated, and they are also they aren't related to the other side, like in an honest way. We should be looking at these statistics carefully to ensure that there is no abuse of inflation for women, and also that we're not minimizing the victimization for men. I think in that sense we could all work together, men and women, because I do see that what's currently happening with these inflated statistics is abusive towards women, while it is also marginalizing male victims. So it's not really helping anyone. But what would really help would be a coordinated effort to recognize all victims, to recognize the reality that this kind of violence is a cyclical thing, and to create interventions that respect everyone, respect not just the fact that people can be victims, but also the respect their ability to heal themselves, and not say things like, if you become raped, you're better off dead, or you're tainted forever. Or even things like safety prevention tips are victim blaming, and all of this discourse, this incredibly heated, dramatic discourse around these issues. And I think that would be the best for everyone. And I mean, if feminists want to get on board with that, I'm not going to turn them away.
Sorry, just to understand what you were saying before, do you believe that the statistics for female rape victims is inflated, but also marginalized is male victims? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, let's look at it this way. If you don't look at the situation for male victims, you don't know what they're facing. And if you don't, for example, we have Mary Koss, who is the feminist behind the 1 in 4 women will be sexually assaulted. 1 in 4 college women will be sexually assaulted in a year. That was her statistic. Now, she was actually responsible for advising the CDC to exclude male victims of rape from the statistics that the CDC put out. Now we have this new, so she simultaneously with creating this 1 in 4 statistic, she's actually reducing the statistic for men. So if you're a woman and you heard, and the relevant statistic I've heard now is the only statistic that I've seen on college men now suggests that there's a really high rate of sexual assault happening with them. Well, several do, but if you were a woman and you heard that you're a college-age woman and you heard, well, 1 in 4 of you will be raped or sexually assaulted, that's really terrifying. But if you heard that, well, all of what constituted that, and that 75% of the women who said who said yes to the definition that Mary Koss was using for rape actually said no when they said, "Were you raped?" Or if you knew that the situation was similar for men, it becomes a problem that we're all facing together. Like, instead of half of the campus being against you in some sort of war, they're also victims too. And it's people against rapists, or even people against those parts of rapists who make them rape. And in my own experience, to use an anecdote, in my own experience, when I realized the rate that men are being sexually victimized, it was like a huge weight was off my shoulders. It just lifted off me instantly. Because I realized that I'm not in a situation where half the population is against me, is perpetrating some sort of rape culture in which they're targeting me. And they're not targeting me for violence. We're all in it together. Every single one of us. And that's what I'm saying. It creates a situation where there's a lack of just what's the right word for this? Just feeling under siege is essentially what it does. These distortions make women feel like they're under siege. And when you feel like you're under siege, you're not doing your best. You're not performing with excellence. You're in a constant state of defensiveness. So I say that it's manipulative and abusive towards women as it marginalizes male victims. Did that answer your question?
I think you did answer all of my questions. Did you want to add anything on the subject?
Yeah, this doesn't have to be us versus them. It doesn't. It doesn't have to be a situation where women have to lose out or because men get recognized as victims. In fact, I think women have a world will open up to them when it's recognized that men are also vulnerable, not just to sexual assault, but also violence, and in comparable rates. Because it becomes more of a partnership. Now we are together trying to fight to end these social problems and really understand the social problems and develop a way of ending them in a comprehensive way that is respectful to every victim's vulnerability, but also respectful for every victim's agency in healing themselves and protecting themselves. So it's like a mutual thing. I think that will open up for women an entirely new way of living their lives as responsible people who aren't uniquely targeted for victimhood. And in turn, I think that will open up their ability to achieve in ways that we're not seeing now. I think that we're limiting women's achievement through these narratives of female victimhood, female targeting for victimhood. And if you want more on that, I can send you a link if you would like.
Sure.
So I can send you. I actually did a video called "Men's Rights versus Feminism Explained Using Magnets," and it just sort of explains how this idea that women are constantly victims is actually limiting them. I mean, if you think about it, when they look into something like women taking jobs as CEOs or politicians, for example, politicians, because this is very clear. Women, when they run in politics, they win just as often as men. What's happening is women are self-selecting. They're not choosing to run. And the reason I think that they're not choosing to run is because they don't have the kind of confidence necessary to believe that they can win. And one of the reasons why they don't have enough confidence necessary to believe they can win is because women are constantly told through feminist rhetoric and government rhetoric and just in society that they are defined by being acted upon, by being victims. That destroys a person's confidence. It destroys their ability to believe that their life is a result of their own actions. And of course somebody who's been indoctrinated into that is going to self-select themselves out of being a politician because, it requires a certain amount of guts to put yourself out there like that. And if you think you're a victim, you don't feel like you can cope with the results of putting yourself out there, so you just self-select yourself out of it. So I think that, if we really looked at this in an honest way, we could even achieve what feminism wants to achieve, which is to increase the representation of women in the public sphere. I'm totally for that. I just think that promoting women as victims is doing the exact opposite.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You too.